Pleading guilty in a police promotion scandal, a high-ranking officer helping junior officers cheat the system. Good evening. Breach of confidence, discreditable conduct, and insubordination. The charges may not be criminal, but the consequences could still be severe.
Superintendent Stacey Clark admitting to her role in a controversy that has rocked the force. CTV's Mike Walker is live with tonight's top story. Mike.
Well, Zaretta Michelle, Superintendent Stacey Clark pleaded guilty to 7 misconduct charges under the Police Services Act for her role in 2021, coaching 6 constables and providing them with the answers and questions in the interview process, vying to become sergeants.
Appearing before the police tribunal, Superintendent Stacey Clark pleaded guilty to 7 misconduct charges for helping 6 constables cheat on their sergeant exams in 2021. The non-criminal charges include breach of confidence, discreditable conduct, and insubordination. Clark was a superintendent at 42 Division and sat on the interview panels for the promotion process. According to an agreed statement of facts, Clark was mentoring some of the candidates and continued to help them after receiving instructions on November 10th to cease contact. The facts state on November 29th, while sitting on the panel, Superintendent Clark took photos of the questions and answer rubric from the initial interview. She then texted these photos to Constable RB and Constable JW, both of whom had interviews later that day. She also sent the photos to Constable PG, whose interview was scheduled for the next day. And on December 3rd, she sent those photos to Constable GB, whose interview was scheduled for December 6th. Superintendent Clark later instructed Constable GB to delete the photos. According to the agreed facts, Clark met with Constable RB at the Whitby Civic Recreation Center to help with mock interviews. The facts also state Clark coached one officer who was a family friend on 3 separate occasions at her home in December. She conducted a mock interview with Constable Horace Harvey, where she posed questions asked during the panels that she had already presided over in the week prior, sometimes word for word. Clark sat on Harvey's interview panel and failed to disclose the conflict of interest, the facts stated.
This doesn't call out for dismissal rather than a fine or a 3-month demotion. I don't know what does.
Criminal defense lawyer Ari Goldkind says this outcome undermines the public trust in police.
She rigged the system, rigged the superintendent sergeant process, defied orders to not communicate with people behind the scenes to help advance them. It's really quite outrageous conduct.
Clark's family members attended the hearing to show their support.
Disappointed in just the process that is undertaken based off of how passionate my sister is about the work that she does and the support of her community.
Clark's lawyer declined to comment. Constable Harvey pleaded guilty to discreditable conduct and received a 6-month demotion. The other 5 officers were disciplined, receiving 10 to 20 days without pay.
Clark was briefly suspended and has been reinstated on active duty. A hearing to determine a penalty will be held at a later date. Toronto police declined to comment on today's guilty plea as the matter is still before the tribunal. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And straight ahead, the peace of mind for many students and parents across Ontario, why the threat of a strike at high schools is silenced, at least for now.
We want to warn you about some of the disturbing details in this story. Proceedings at the trial of former Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard.
A clinical psychologist taking the stand as an expert witness. CTV's John Musselman is live with more tonight. John.
Well, that's right, Michelle, and she was testifying about the effects of traumatic experiences on a person, the neurobiology of it all, and she presented a PowerPoint to the jury members. Dr. Lori Haskell is a clinical psychologist with 25 years of experience. She took the stand today at the Peter Nygard trial as an expert witness discussing the neurobiology of trauma. She told the jury that when a person goes through a traumatic event, it affects their thinking and behavior, in some cases causing them to freeze with fear. Quote, stress hormones flood the brain, causing cognitive dysfunction. It changes your heart rate, breathing, and it affects the brain circuitry. Prosecutors allege that Nygard sexually assaulted 5 women in the 1980s. The women were aged 28 to 16 years old. Under cross-examination, Dr. Haskell acknowledged that she has no knowledge of the circumstances of the events or of what the complainants experienced. She also agreed with the defense that people can have more than one response to a traumatic event. Brian Greenspan, there may be other reasons someone can't recall the narrative of a traumatic event. Dr. Haskell, yes. Greenspan, can the passage of time affect it? Haskell, yes. Greenspan, can it be someone not telling the truth? Haskell, yes. Yesterday, the jury was shown this video. Nygaard redesigned the building on Niagara Street in 1986. There was a fourth-floor unit with a bedroom, jacuzzi, and sauna. The prosecution alleges the women were offered jobs or exclusive experiences and a tour of the building that ended with an attack.
Full of friends and loved ones.
Nygaard is now 82 years old. The fashion mogul has pleaded not guilty to 5 charges of sexual assault and 1 count of forcible confinement. And this trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks. Testimony will continue next Tuesday. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. Zoraida, back to you.
Thank you, John. 2 horrific news now from York Region. A Thornhill community mourning the loss of a 9-year-old girl struck and killed while playing outside her home. It happened shortly after 5:30 yesterday evening on Mullen Drive near Steeles and Bathurst. Police say the girl was playing outside when she was hit by a delivery van. She was taken to hospital where she died of her injuries. The driver of the vehicle stayed on scene, and there is no word right now on any possible charges.
Elsewhere, a 16-year-old girl has now died in hospital after being hit by a vehicle in Uxbridge last Friday. This happening in the parking lot of a skate park on Main Street North. Police saying the teen was skateboarding while hanging onto the side of a pickup truck. She lost her balance and fell under the wheel of the truck. The investigation into the collision continues.
Coming up, the search for answers in Barrie. Police continue to investigate a car bombing. Who was targeted and why?
But first, a live look outside this hour. The cloud took over this afternoon. It could have been warmer, but the threat of rain has dissipated, and we are approaching the weekend with lots to enjoy on the weather front. Lindsay Morrison joins us live tonight from the Markham Fairgrounds. And Lindsay, there's nothing quite like a fall fair.
Oh, it is that time of year. Michelle and Zoraida, we're so happy to be here in Markham tonight. And I'm joined here at the Markham Fair by Bruce McKenzie, who is the general manager. This is your 179th fair. What can people look forward to this year?
The Markham Fair, 179 years old, predates Confederation. We've got Monster Truck Madness, the largest outdoor show. We've got agricultural displays, livestock displays. We've got demolition derbies. We've got food, more food than you can possibly handle. We've got mini chuck wagon races. There's something for everybody here at Markham Fair.
Well, Bruce, and I'm very happy to share that we are serving up a pretty nice weather forecast for you over the next 4 days here. But let's begin with what we're experiencing currently here in the city of Toronto and, of course, surrounding areas like Markham. There have been some showers in southwestern Ontario. We've had some of the cloud associated with that low, but otherwise we're remaining dry. It's another windy night tonight. Those winds coming out of the east, they're gusty once again. We are going to see the winds ease a little bit as we make our way into the day tomorrow. Temperature-wise, we're still warmer than normal in most areas. And here's a look at tonight at a glance. Worth mentioning that tonight we can enjoy the harvest moon if we can get some of this cloud to clear. And once again, warmer than normal. 13 is the overnight low. We are live here at the Markham Fairgrounds. That's Jewel over there. We're going to meet some more animal friends and check out more things we can do here at the fair coming up. But for now, Michelle and Zoraida, I'll send it back to you.
Hey, Jewel, can't wait. Thanks, Lindsay. To Queen's Park next, where the province is telling parents of high school students they can breathe easy. Labor peace for the time being.
And in just the last few moments, some breaking news in the Liberal leadership race. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with more. Siobhan.
Zoraida, we know that Adil Shamji, he's the Liberals' health critic. He says that he's dropping out of the race to support Bonnie Crombie. He says that he is going to continue to push behind Crombie for better health care in the province. But of course, we know that Crombie is the perceived frontrunner in this race. We know the Liberals will name their next leader on December 2nd. Education is something that all opposition parties have been hammering the government on. But today they feel they have a win with a deal in place to come to a resolution with high school teachers in the public boards.
The morning dash to class is locked in for Ontario public high school students. Their teachers have agreed to arbitration if they can't negotiate a new contract in the next month. It means no possibility of strikes until 2026.
This is a huge achievement for 400,000 students and their families, and I'm grateful to all the parties for coming together to put kids first.
78% of OSSTF members signed off on arbitration.
We don't trust the Ford government to fund education to make sure that the money is there, so it will be in the hands of an arbitrator if it can't be settled at the table.
Still, Littlewood says she's felt a positive shift at the bargaining table the last few weeks.
Because of the Greenbelt scandal, the Ford government's looking for some good news.
The education minister brushes off that suggestion, but with this framework established for public high school teachers,
We would reasonably expect the other unions to work with us quickly, end the delay, but sign a deal that keeps these kids in school.
it's a hard no for those unions who don't feel arbitration can resolve their outstanding issues. While the government is counting a win in education, it can't get past the fiasco of the Eglinton Crosstown. It was supposed to be rolling in 2020. The Minister of Transportation won't commit to an opening in 2024.
We will make sure that we build a reliable transit system. And as I said, you will get those updates.
But an update from the CEO of Metrolinx yesterday brought on more frustration than clarity, with new problems cropping up all the time.
Any prediction of an opening date at this stage of the project will just be an estimate. And I'm not comfortable giving that to you as an estimate.
Opposition parties find that outrageous.
We have somebody being paid almost $1 million and can't even provide us any answers. I think he needs to go.
This government is the one that keep renewing this contract of his. So ultimately the buck stops with the government. They should fire the CEO.
The minister wouldn't answer questions about whether Verster should pack up his desk.
I instructed Phil to have these open and regular conversations as you did yesterday.
Illuminating the chaos of the project, but not its completion date.
Those updates are supposed to come every 2 months, so the next one will land in November. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Zoraida, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Also at Queen's Park, the NDP is pushing for further investigations into the Greenbelt controversy as the new legislative session ramps up.
Now we know that before the 2022 election, senior staff in the Premier's office were discussing removing lands from the Greenbelt. They knew it would be unpopular, so they went to great lengths and spent untold amounts of taxpayer dollars on lawyers to keep their mandate letters secret. This Premier knew what he was hiding. Why did the Premier keep his plans to remove lands from the Greenbelt a secret from voters?
The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing replied that the Progressive Conservatives ran on building housing, among other priorities. After more questioning from the opposition leader, Premier Ford weighed in on his government's about-face on taking protected lands out of the Greenbelts.
I was pretty clear. I know when we went down the wrong road. I admitted the mistake. I apologize. We're moving forward. But as the minister just mentioned, that's not going to deter us from building homes. We're going to be building homes in each and every one of your ridings for your people that voted for you. We're going to build homes for newcomers that arrive here for a better life. We're going to build homes for the young people that are out of the housing market right now. And to be very frank, if we left it up to you, they wouldn't have a home right now. They wouldn't have a home under the Liberals or the NDP.
Earlier today, the NDP called for a select committee to be created to examine what took place with the Greenbelt land selection scandal. This follows the Premier's apology and reversal on the file and the departures of 2 cabinet ministers and several political staffers now, as well as damning reports from the Auditor General and Integrity Commissioner, which found the process of choosing lands to remove from the protected area was flawed and favored certain developers.
One person had to be rescued from a balcony overnight during a 3-alarm fire at a high-rise in Scarborough. Emergency crews were called to the apartment building on McLevin Avenue near Finch and Nielsen at about 1:30 a.m. Toronto Fire says crews found one person trapped on the balcony of a 9th-floor unit that was actively burning. They were rescued and taken to hospital with minor injuries. The fire itself was put out and residents returned to their units. There's been no word on a potential cause or if anyone is displaced.
After violent confrontations at an Eritrean cultural festival last month, Toronto police are searching for several suspects. On August 5th, members of the Eritrean community gathered at Earls Court Park. As has happened in other cities in Canada and overseas, an opposing group appeared, accusing them of ties with Eritrea's ruling regime. Police stepped in to separate the groups and cut the event short. They're now trying to identify 3 Suspects, who they say were among a large group that damaged property and assaulted several people. At the time, police said 9 people were hurt, including one who was stabbed.
Newly released figures show a year-over-year drop in deaths among Toronto's homeless population, but officials say the number is still hovering higher than pre-pandemic rates. Toronto Public Health says in the first half of 2023, 79 deaths were reported among those without housing. That's down from 92 at that point last year. 46% of those deaths were due to drug toxicity, and that number could rise as more coroner's reports come in. The median ages of death were 52 for men and 48 among women.
To the investigation now into a shocking event in Barrie, a car bombing early yesterday morning outside an apartment complex.
Police are still canvassing the area for information as investigators start working to find out who may have been targeted. CTV's Christian Davino reports.
A startling wake-up call at 3 in the morning. An explosive device believed to be strapped to this vehicle outside an Ann Street apartment complex, forcing an area evacuation as police attempted to detonate what was believed to be the remains of that device later Wednesday morning. Today, a return to normal for residents at first glance, but several questions still remain.
Not often you hear of a bomb in your neighborhood. That's uncommon.
Heard it yesterday around 3 o'clock in the morning. It woke me up. Definitely want the answers, right? And he should be accountable for it.
After disposing of the device, the real work beginning today for investigators.
Now we have the questions that need to be answered.
The explosion contained to the 108A Ann Street parking lot, but officers canvassing Ann Street neighborhoods north and south of Ground Zero.
To the north, there's a number of residences up that way, and to the south, it's primarily businesses. Again, somebody's going to have camera surveillance that will assist us.
Police believing the incident to be targeted using what's called an improvised explosive device, or IED for short.
And so it's kind of a crude bomb, so to speak. Some are fairly sophisticated.
Lewis saying bombs like this are rare and usually linked to organized crime on home soil. Forensics moving to determine the make of the device as they look for answers.
The big Oklahoma government building bombing way back when was made with things like fertilizer and diesel fuel. But more in the more modern times, people can find explosive materials on the black market. It's not something you can buy legally.
Police thanking residents for their cooperation with officers after Wednesday's tense and scary scenes, and are asking anyone with information to contact them or Crime Stoppers. Christian Davino, CTV News, Barrie.
As we settle into fall and cases rise, Health Canada has approved an updated COVID-19 vaccine. The new Pfizer injection is designed to combat the Omicron XBB.1.5 subvariant that is currently circulating. And today it was authorized for use in people 6 months of age and up. The health agency received Pfizer-BioNTech's submission at the end of June. A Moderna vaccine for the same subvariant was approved earlier this month. And Health Canada says there will be an ample supply of the new formulation of mRNA vaccines this fall. It is also currently reviewing a submission from Novavax.
There is more fallout from the presence in the House of Commons last week of a man who fought for the Nazis. Yaroslav Hunka was hailed a hero during Friday's visit by Ukraine's president, but it was later revealed he was a member of a Ukrainian unit set up by the Nazis. Now, the University of Alberta has closed a $30,000 endowment fund carrying his name and returned the money to his family. House Speaker Anthony Rota resigned for inviting Hunka, and the Prime Minister apologized on behalf of MPs yesterday.
It is being billed as the largest private manufacturing investment in Quebec's history.
A Swedish company is building a $7 billion EV battery plant near Montreal with a lot of help from Canadian taxpayers. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin has the details.
With signatures on a battery cell, Canada announced its latest multi-billion-dollar boost to energy transition. This site in McMasterville, south of Montreal, the size of 318 American football fields, will be home to a Swedish company, Northvolt. It manufactures electric vehicle battery cells and is run by 2 former Tesla executives, vowing to be among the greenest battery makers in the world.
But we couldn't help glancing at Quebec. It was like
You found the grid. We found the raw material supply.
But there was also the promise of up to $2.9 billion in financing from Quebec and $4.4 billion from Ottawa.
Canada put itself on a level playing field with what the United States has been doing.
The price tag is massive, and some consider it somewhat risky, in part because Northvolt is a young company. It still has to prove it can ramp up production in North America to equip 1 million electric cars a year. But according to Ottawa, the investment will pay off.
This is part of our vision for a stronger economy for generations to come.
That race to build a complete EV battery supply chain from mining critical minerals to putting batteries in cars is competitive. Asian countries have been investing for decades.
I think in the past 2 years after COVID, we realize how important the proximity and the resiliency of our supply chain are super important.
In its first phase, Northvolt says it will hire 3,000 workers at the plant and spark 10,000 indirect jobs. Canada's Science and Innovation Minister shared his first text with Northvolt from May 2022.
I think we can be your partner of choice to build the greenest battery in the world. And from that vision, you chose Quebec among more than 70 jurisdictions in the world.
The first battery is expected to roll off the assembly line in 2026. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
The Canadian Armed Forces is investigating a cyber attack on its website. A hacker group in India is claiming responsibility for yesterday's incident. For a few hours, mobile users were unable to access the site that is separate from the Defense Department and internal military networks. The hackers also say they were behind an attack on the Elections Canada website on Wednesday. The group made reference to Prime Minister Trudeau's announcement of alleged Indian involvement in the killing of a Sikh activist. Meanwhile, some pages on the House of Commons website are still loading slowly due to an attack that started Monday.
Arming Ukraine and the status of the war were the focus of high-level talks in Kyiv today.
The stronger Ukraine becomes, the closer we come to ending Russia's aggression. Russia could lay down arms and end its war today. Ukraine does not have that option.
NATO's Secretary General met with Volodymyr Zelensky. Jens Stoltenberg said the alliance has contracts for $2.5 billion in ammunition for Ukraine. And Volodymyr Zelensky says his guests agreed to try and get NATO members to help provide additional air defense systems. The president also reminded Stoltenberg of the persistent attacks that often strike residential areas.
In Washington, the first hearing of an impeachment inquiry against U.S. President Joe Biden was held today.
Since assuming our Republican majority in January, the House Oversight and Accountability Committee has uncovered a mountain of evidence revealing how Joe Biden abused his public office for his family's financial gain. For years, President Biden has lied to the American people about his knowledge of and participation in his family's corrupt business schemes.
Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie. No foreign enemy has ever been able to shut down the government of the United States, but now MAGA Republicans are about to do just that.
I understand the question, and if you're talking about 2019...
Testimony was heard today from experts in tax law, criminal investigations, and constitutional legal theory. Republicans are seeking to link the business dealings of Hunter Biden to his father.
It was once considered impossible, but today Taiwan introduced its first domestically built submarine. It took 7 years of design and construction and is now ready for testing. The sub will only be handed over to the military after passing both its harbor and ocean-faring trials. If this one is successful, a second submarine will be built.
In the UK, a 16-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of cutting down a famous tree. This sycamore tree stood for nearly 200 years next to Hadrian's Wall in northern England. But police say it was deliberately felled in an act of vandalism overnight. It was also known as the Robin Hood tree after appearing in the Kevin Costner film, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Attention stargazers, the last supermoon of the year will peak Friday morning. This version is called the harvest moon as a nod to the fall season, and it'll be closer to Earth than usual, appearing bigger and brighter. Other names include corn marker moon, moon of brown leaves, and autumn moon. Coming up, check those tickets. Someone out there is $68 million richer. The record-breaking jackpot sold in Toronto. Where, oh where could the winner be?
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, imagine having your own putting green right in your own backyard. A Toronto family had one installed, but the city says because it's made of artificial grass, it must be removed, leading to a turf war with City Hall. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
Well, these are just some of the friends that you'll meet this weekend at Old Mac's Barn here at the Markham Fair. We have Sassy, a 5-month-old miniature horse, and we have some sweet bunnies here, Jimmy and Pork Chop. What a great name. Hey, if you're thinking of coming down to the Markham Fair or any fall fair around Southern Ontario tomorrow, the weather's looking great. Here's a look at your forecast. Mainly sunny skies, especially as we head into the afternoon, and temperatures once again on the warm side of seasonal. Are you ready for a warm-up? We'll talk about the first few days of October after this, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you tonight right here on CTV.
It wasn't the best year to have a great lawn. We had a lot of rain earlier in the summer, and now we're in the midst of a dry spell.
It would be nice to have a lawn that's always green, has no weeds, and you never need to cut it. But when it comes to fake grass, it may not be allowed. Pat Foran has a Consumer Alert tonight. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle. And Zoraida, a Scarborough family, installed artificial turf in their backyard and even put in a small putting green. Everything was fine until a neighbor complained, and now they're being told it's not allowed and they need to rip it out. The grass in front of the Scarborough home is the real thing, but when you look in the backyard, you'll find a putting green made with artificial turf.
There you go.
Chado Trivanovic is an avid golfer who installed the synthetic grass 4 years ago. As much as he and his family enjoy golf, he says at the time they also wanted fake grass to make it easier for his mother-in-law, who had health issues, to enjoy the backyard.
She could go out with a wheelchair or a stroller, and she doesn't get caught in mud. She can get around, see her flowers.
Trivanovic says there were no issues until a neighbor complained that rainwater was running off the synthetic grass and onto her property. But he's adamant the fake lawn is porous and does allow drainage.
Underneath is 10 inches of gravel, then limestone, then perforated turf. So the drainage is better than grass.
Trivanovic did a demonstration for a Toronto bylaw officer.
There's no standing water anywhere.
Still, the family was given a notice of violation that a minimum 50% of their rear yard must be soft landscaping. It said you are required to correct the violation and bring the property into compliance. Creating this backyard was a big job, and installing this turf was about $20,000. The family is concerned it could also cost that much if they have to remove it. The City of Toronto said artificial turf does not count towards soft landscaping and that soil or mulch suitable for trees, shrubs, flowers, and plants enhance biodiversity, cool the air, absorb rainwater, and remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. There have been other turf wars with City Hall, and a Toronto senior is going to court saying he should have the right to a fake lawn because he can no longer maintain real grass. Trivanovic says it's a court case he wants to join and says it's unfair some institutions can have fake grass while homeowners can't.
From daycares to junior schools, high schools, universities, they could all put turf down for kids to play on.
And the court case on fake grass goes before a Justice of the Peace next month. The city is not backing down and holding firm. Artificial turf, even if it's a putting green, should not be used by Toronto homeowners. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Someone in Toronto woke up a cool $68 million richer today. That was the record-breaking size of the Lotto 649 Gold Ball jackpot last night. The OLG says the ticket was sold somewhere in Toronto, and they are urging anyone who entered to check their tickets as they wait for the big winner to come forward.
The 2023 Michelin Guide for Toronto is out, and 2 local restaurants were in the spotlight as they received one of the publication's highest honors.
So with 1 Michelin star, the new recruits. Capo Sato.
Japanese restaurant Kaposato received a Michelin star, as did contemporary food restaurant 20 Victoria. Toronto now has 14 one-star restaurants and 1 two-star restaurant, and a total of 82 Michelin-listed eateries.
The culinary scene is awesome. Well, as we approach the weekend, it's almost here, and the weather is shaping up to be just perfect for a fall fair.
Yeah, maybe some of those restaurants have patios for this weekend, Linz.
Yeah, that would be nice. And if you're looking for something more like street food or those Tiny Tom donuts, you can get those here at the Markham Fair. Just as good, in my opinion, as those Michelin star restaurants. We have Chris Reeser here, who is the president of the Markham Fair. This is the exhibits area where you can check out things like giant pumpkins. I always love that at events like this. Chris, tell me about the importance of the Markham Fair and what an event like this means to the community.
It's a tremendous opportunity for the community to come out and showcase the agriculture that is in Markham and Stouffville and East York that we don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis. We have a volunteer base of 800 volunteers that do put on this amazing event, and that we are so proud of, that we've been running for the last 179 years.
It's absolutely incredible that you do that. This is day 1 of 4. Lots of opportunity for people to come down and check this out. And what I love is that it's very attainable for people to get here from Toronto, from other parts of the GTA. They don't have to travel too far.
No, and certainly we're very unique in that circumstance that we are so close to the city, putting on this 4-day fair. That's the largest one in Canada, mind you.
Love that. Thank you so much for having us here. We've got some great weather for anybody who wants to come on down and check out the fair. Let's get to your forecast. We're going to begin by letting you know that the weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. As for what we can expect tonight, the rest of the night is going to be not bad, but we've been talking a lot the last little while here about how dry it's been this September. Farmers may be feeling the effects of that. We've had less than 10 millimeters so far in the month of September, that's of rain. Compared that to June and July, more than 100 millimeters. Now, there are a couple of sprinkles creeping their way into some parts of the GTA. We're going to keep a close eye on Pearson Airport and see if that streak does in fact come to an end. The heavier rain the last several days has been across southwestern Ontario. Blocking high, keeping us mostly dry here in the GTA, especially as we make our way into the next couple of days. It's going to be mainly sunny starting tomorrow afternoon and then continuing right through the weekend. As for what we can expect, right through Friday, might see a little bit of clear sky in time to see the harvest moon early tomorrow morning, and then it clears into the afternoon. Saturday looks great as well. Let's talk temperatures. It's been nice and comfortable again today. A little bit cooler than it's been the last couple of days at times, but overall not bad at all. 13 is our forecast overnight low for tonight, and then tomorrow is looking like a brilliant day. 21 degrees, mainly sunny skies. I want to talk a little bit about what's in store for the weekend and beyond. Weekend looks beautiful. Next week looks hot. We're talking temperatures in the upper 20s in some cases. Never mind fall, it's still feeling more like summer. Hey, here's something you can check out if you're coming down to the Markham Fair. I want to say hi to a queen here. Say hello to our viewers. There is the drag extravaganza that's going to be happening this weekend as well. Should everyone come on down and check it out?
Absolutely. We are doing a drag show from 7:30 till 10:45 tonight. We're going to be dancing, having a good time. We're going to be doing some nice songs. There's going to be a lot of fancy fashion, and you never know what you're going to see.
Michelle and Zoraida, lots of fun here. I'm going to send it back to you for now.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, Canada's Rock of Fame is about to get a slew of Canadian greats, iconic musicians from the 70s and 80s in town tonight for a live induction event at Massey Hall.
Young adulthood is a time for building new social relationships and work connections.
But if you're dealing with certain conditions, doing that can be very hard. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
Even before she started classes at York University, Lena Alugeli had to do her homework, finding the locations of the bathrooms on campus. Lena is living with Crohn's disease, diagnosed when she was just 10.
Losing a lot of weight rapidly, a lot of pain and discomfort, and just some feverish symptoms.
So adolescence is a very important time because that's when children are growing. They're trying to make friends and socialize.
Dr. Vivian Huang, who also lives with IBD, says eating carefully, managing medications, activities, and symptoms are challenging parts of a chronic disease. But in the case of IBD, stigma also plays a big role.
And even my patients tell me that, they live with their symptoms. They don't want to talk about it because of the fear of the stigma attached to it.
That's why Lena was delighted to recently receive a $5,000 post-secondary scholarship from drug makers AbbVie. She's putting it towards her studies to become a nurse, focusing on IBD.
Turn my pain into passion and really help a community that is in, I would say, desperate need of more help and more support.
The scholarships have been offered across Canada since 2012, and this year Lena is one of 15 scholarship recipients. Before she became familiar with the campus, she used Go Here, one of the apps designed to help people find bathroom facilities easily. She takes injections of a medication that helps stop her immune system from attacking her digestive tract. She's doing well, but she worries about the rise, especially in children, being diagnosed with IBD.
We have to start being more open about it. We have to stop shaming and we have to make it a more supportive community.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
British-Irish actor Sir Michael Gambon has died.
I protest! Harry, you put your name in a goblet of fire. You ask one of the oldest students to do it for you.
Best known for his role as headmaster Albus Dumbledore in most of the Harry Potter films, Gambon also had an extensive catalogue of work on stage, TV, and radio. Reports cited a family statement saying he died today peacefully in hospital at the age of 82 after a bout with pneumonia. Fellow Harry Potter actor Daniel Radcliffe shared a tribute with Variety magazine, reading in part, "With the loss of Michael Gambon, the world just became considerably less fun. I'm so sad to hear he has passed, but I'm also grateful for the fact that I am one of the lucky people who got to work with him."
Striking film and TV actors were back on the picket lines today as their union prepares for new contract talks.
We have not run our race, friends. We are still in the middle of our story.
SAG-AFTRA says its leadership will meet with studios and streaming services Monday for the first time since they went on strike in mid-July. They've outlined many of the same priorities as those in the tentative Writers Guild deal, including wages and job protections. This comes as those writers get back to work.
The darkness is falling, the sky has turned gray.
Variety reports HBO is likely prioritizing the writing for shows like The Last of Us Season 2 and the latest version of The White Lotus. Similarly, Netflix is expected to focus on writing for the final season of Stranger Things and the next season of Wednesday. So scripts are prepared when the actors' strike is resolved.
Well, for the first time ever, the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be broadcast live.
And all the girls dream that they'd be your partner.
That's Olivia Rodrigo honoring Carly Simon last year. This year, we know Elton John and Brandi Carlile will be among the performers saluting Willie Nelson, Kate Bush, Sheryl Crow, George Michael, and other inductees. The ceremony will stream live on Disney Plus on November 3rd. Here at home, a rock music celebration for the ages is taking place at Massey Hall tonight.
Canada's Walk of Fame honoring rock legends from the 70s and 80s and rolling out Canada's Rock of Fame. CTV's Andrea Case has more.
The rock band Chilliwack first came together in 1970. It was a time when a number of Canadian bands were making their mark both at home and internationally.
It was always competitive back then, right? Like someone had to really break through, right? And everybody was trying to be the one, right? So everybody's going, well, who's the one? Now we're going, we're all the one.
Since then, 20 members have come and gone, but Bill Henderson, the man who helped create Chilliwack, remains. The Vancouver band had difficulties coming up with a name, then one day, an epiphany.
Why don't we call ourselves Chilliwack?
After years of using the name, they decided to honor the place itself.
We went up to the Chilliwack people's place and we talked to the hereditary chief, sat down with them for an hour or so. And I just basically wanted to say, well, here we are. We've been using your name all this time, right? And we're here, so we'd like to know you.
Loving you ain't so easy. A few years earlier, across the country, Montreal's Michel Pagliaro was doing the same. He'll never forget the first time he heard himself on the radio almost 50 years ago.
When it's the first time you hear yourself speak, it's always bizarre because you don't think it's you. You know what I mean? You're not used to hearing your voice. So I guess it's a shock to hear yourself the first time.
Now, all these years later, both Pagliaro and Chilliwack will join Canada's Rock of Fame, along with 12 other acts tonight at Massey Hall.
I'm very fortunate that I can still make a living out of doing something I love to do. It's like the old Chinese saying, if you find something you love to do in your life, it's not work anymore, So I'm a lucky man.
Andrea Case, CTV News.
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
On the next CP24 Breakfast, fall is here, and that means the return of the Fall Home Show. We'll be live at the Enercare Center with some of the 250 home and lifestyle experts ready to help you make the most of your space. That's on the next CP24 Breakfast, up first at 5:30.
It's really quite outrageous conduct.
Updating our top stories, a senior Toronto police officer has pleaded guilty to 7 non-criminal misconduct charges before a police tribunal. Superintendent Stacey Clark stood accused of helping 6 constables cheat on their sergeant exams in 2021. Her lawyer didn't comment. Superintendent Clark's sentencing will come at a later date.
The Peter Nygard trial continued today with expert testimony from a clinical psychologist. The former fashion mogul is accused of sexually assaulting 5 women in the 1980s. Dr. Lori Haskell said she had no knowledge of the circumstances, but said traumatic events can cause some people to freeze with fear. Nygard has pleaded not guilty to 5 charges of sexual assault and 1 count of forcible confinement.
This is a huge achievement for 400,000 students and their families.
And the Ford government is claiming a victory after reaching a deal of sorts with teachers at public high schools. 78% of OSSTF members agreed talks should go to arbitration if they can't finalize a new contract with the province in the next month. Other education unions have been less open to a similar arrangement.
In business, there should be light at the end of Canada's economic tunnel next year. That's according to a new report by economists at Deloitte. With more, here's Jacqueline Hansen from BNN Bloomberg.
It is likely that the Bank of Canada will achieve its goal of slowing the economy enough to cool inflation without inflicting too much pain on the economy. That's according to new analysis by Deloitte Canada. The Deloitte economists behind it say their base case is that the rest of this year will be rough for the economy, but that growth will resume next year. So a deeper economic downturn should be able to be avoided. They suggest that hope for a stronger U.S. economy, plus continued strong population growth here at home, will help prevent the worst case scenario. StatsCan will release its latest GDP data, a snapshot of Canada's economic growth, tomorrow morning. Well, let's take a look at some of the closing market numbers for today. The Canadian dollar is trading up slightly to a little over 74 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate oil fell almost $2 to a little under $92 U.S. a barrel. And Western Canadian Select fell a little less than $2 to roughly $74 U.S. a barrel. As for stock markets, the TSX gained 154 points to end the day at 19,590.74. That is the latest in business. I'm Jacqueline Hansen of BNN Bloomberg.
A new survey suggests economic turbulence is having a growing impact on younger generations. Leger spoke with more than 3,000 people, equally split between Gen Z and Millennials. Among that group, 51% now say they're living paycheck to paycheck, up 3 percentage points from last year. 15% of respondents said they intend to quit their job in the next 12 months. 50% of that group say they're looking to job hop to increase their salary.
Tonight, rolling out the red carpet for rock royalty. The legendary concert and induction ceremony as
the Toronto Blue Jays need to find their offense in a hurry.
That hitters have had against the change, but not this time. Judge crushes another one.
The Jays are looking to avoid a sweep in tonight's series finale against New York. Toronto holds the second wildcard spot with 4 games left in the season, but Houston is only a half a game back. Bo Bichette is batting cleanup this evening. Chris Bassett is on the mound.
They're going to win one. All right, Lindsay's been at the Markham Fair. We've been getting a great tour, and the weather's going to cooperate for all 4 days of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that this is a fall fair, but it's going to look and feel a little more like summer around here. I don't think too many people are complaining, though. This is a great looking forecast. The sun is now setting close to 7 p.m., but we get to enjoy the beautiful midway lights. Come on down and enjoy this evening, or yes, over the next couple of days, if it doesn't work for you. Let's take one more look at what you can expect weather-wise as we head into the day tomorrow. Forecast high 21 degrees. Your Friday forecast for school and the kids heading off tomorrow. Here's a look at what you can expect. Probably a jacket in the morning. You can lose it by the afternoon. And there's one more look at the 7-day forecast. It is looking fantastic. It's been so much fun joining you from the Markham Fair. I know it's not quite dinner for me yet, but I'm going to enjoy some dessert now. Michelin, Zoraida, back to you.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Don't blame you.
Enjoy. That's it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by our next local newscast with Zoraida at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.
We'll see you at 11:30.